like I say, well, human beings or people were like, I mean, like I say, like, I love you and you're my life forms. Like, you're not anybody else's. You're actually mine. And and we did a lot of things like there was like 14,000 acres of the city that was 14,000 acres acres wide. Single wall construction, basically dry, not painted even, barely, not even painted, and there's alcohol stills in there, and there's this and there's that, and also there's like hydrochloric, no, what's it called, that poison that they use, strychnine poison or whatever. They use it for mining, and it's going down creeks and soaking into the groundwater and soaking into the creeks, and then it's coming out in the rainstorms. Like I said, there's mines, and they would have these big pools, and then the pools would overflow when it would rain, or animals would drink from those pools, and they would just die. And then sometimes people would even eat the meat of animals that died from strychnine poisoning, stuff like that, and then they would get sick. And so what you have basically is you have like these 14,000 square acre wooden buildings, wooden shacks that just people put up, and like I even filmed one. There's this old city, and I built a new city, and I was moving the workers because I was upgrading from the old wooden wall construction to more of a stone wall construction. So so I moved the people out of the old buildings, and then we went and we just blew it, and we burned the whole city, and we filmed it. The whole thing of the fire. There's this film of basically a whole city being burned. With its stuff in there, and it shows people like how quickly a fire can start in one hut, and then it goes, and then the wind starts going, and goes across, and then it hits one little TNT stack, and then boom, and then and then the fire just kind of spreads, and then like I think it was like 3 hours. You could have this huge thing, and it really wasn't all that bad to the people upwind. I don't think. It depended on where this fire started, but all the people down, like, but we had like these cities that were like 30 miles long, of like densely packed, like 4 or 5 foot wide area where people would be living in these wooden buildings, and we just filmed, and we showed how the fire could just go, and it becomes this raging wall of heat, because on some of those plains especially, the heat would be blowing. It'd come because the wind is protecting the buildings right here. So as the wind comes along the buildings, it just grabs that heat and pushes it over, and basically like flash cooks all the houses, because the wind is being blocked by the houses over here, and then all those other houses just become like in a blast furnace where it just goes, because the wind pushes the flame more over. So all the heat's basically going like that. So in some of these situations, because and plus the heat's causing it to rise more, so the wind's being sucked in more, so you get like this blast furnace that actually like blasts the houses. Everything downwind of those buildings just gets cooked, and like in like an hour or 2 hours, you could go from being like a small fire to basically like, and there's people that are dying from the smoke and everything else, because like I say, another thing is because of the wind blockage. It just pushes all that soot and all that black smoke right over, and just goes right into to the rest of the town, to where they can't see, so they don't know where the fire is, and they can't breathe. Thunk. And like I said, you would find these cities, and we also found a couple cities where it's like, well, we lost about 20,000 people. How? And what was the carcinogens and the smoke and everything else like that. Like I said, these 14-foot high buildings right here, and you have this big plane and this big wind coming along like this, and the wind would just push all the carcinogens, all the smoke over, and basically blast those other buildings. So you'd have like 25,000 people that just died. And like I was really wondering if someone was going in and killing all those people, or if they were just dying from the smoke and everything. But apparently, I guess there was the smoke. It was the carcinogens that, like I said, you'd have all these small, like 15-foot tall buildings, and when you have like nothing and just like 15-foot tall buildings, it acts like a wind block, and then all this wind, the wind hits the wind block, goes up over, and then just creates like a blast furnace. And you'd have 30,000 people dead. Or 3,000 or 8,000 people dead. And it's like, whoa. That's why I say a lot of times, like there'll be my building right here, and like my buildings will actually act as a wind block for other buildings. Like I started putting up tall buildings just to keep that from happening, because if you don't have anything stopping these like, you'd get like 100-mile-an-hour side winds, because all those slow buildings, just without any trees, without any other tall buildings, there's nothing to break up the wind. And it's literally like taking a hairdryer and just going and just going right over everyone dies on that side of the fire. So we had started doing a major change and putting up big tall buildings and all kinds of stuff and planting trees, and also making sure that there were trees in a city, because if there's no trees and no wind block in a city, like I say, you'd get 100-mile-an-hour wind coming right along, and it's just like a blast furnace. So anyway, we realized that, and a lot of people realized that, and there's a lot of changes to cities, and like I said too, like all the smoke and stuff would stay down low, and the people would suffocate and then die. That's where most people died from, and all the bad and some of the things like if the fire hit a mercury building, or a building built with mercury or something like that, and also all the lead paint too. When it hit that stuff, people, the combination of mercury, lead paint, and all these other things is just like, and so a lot of changes had to be done, and a lot of things had to be changed, and they were, mostly through new buildings and stuff, and everybody realized that like they're living on a ticking time bomb. All it takes is one bad fire, and then the rest of us die. So anyway, things were changed, and like my stone building sold like, that's another reason why my stone quarry, my slate quarry, sold huge. Everyone was like, slate, we need slate. And so like, I was selling slate like crazy, like, oh my god, oh my lord, like my slate was selling at like, everyone wanted slate, because slate was fireproof. You could trust in slate. And slate actually is a really good substance. I mean, it worked out pretty good. I mean, for one thing, it worked as a good base. It was a nice, good flat top, and and you could kind of do stuff, and so there's slate buildings, slate roads. There's a lot of slate. Slate was sold like crazy. Slate could be broken fairly easily into pieces, and then you could put it down, and it provided a pretty good walking surface, like 6-inch slate slab or blocks. You could put a wagon on it pretty good, and it wouldn't like twist or that much, in the mud. And slate was a pretty good building material. Like I said, slate was huge. Slate was like gold. Like there was a one point in time when slate was trading for as much as gold, because it was that much in demand, because people loved it for roads. You could use it for buildings. You could use slate for just about anything. And it was easy to get. And so there were lots of slate roads. Like you'll look under probably a third of the roads on the planet, and you'll find a slate road underneath. It's like, yeah, well, slate's pretty good, isn't it? Anyway, so there's a lot of roads. Like I use slate a lot. Lots of people use slate a lot, and so slate was huge. Like I said, that whole mountain, when you go into that slate, my old slate quarry, you'd notice that mountain used to be flat. That whole indentation and like half that creek that goes up there, that was actually built. That was cut. like they dammed off the ocean and were like digging the slate out of the water channel. They built that water channel out of the slate or something like that. So, and then later on, dirt and stuff covered it up. But yeah,